In a dramatic move, the U.S. President Donald Trump has proposed a radical plan, a complete takeover of Gaza and the mass relocation of its Palestinian residents to other parts of the Arab world. While he hasn't specified a destination this time, in the past he expressed his desire to resettle Gaza's refugees in Egyptian Sinai and Jordan. But could such a massive displacement ever be practically feasible? And what would it mean for the Middle East, a region already fraught with tension and conflict? In this documentary, we will discuss Trump's peace plan for Gaza, and explore the implications of this so-called peace plan, how it could reshape the Middle East, provoke geopolitical tensions, and challenge the very fabric of international law.
If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza.
According to the plan, outlined by U.S. President Donald Trump, Israel will hand over the Gaza Strip to the United States after fighting is over. Then the United States will do its job by dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings. The United States will own this piece of land by permanently resettle its Palestinian inhabitant outside Gaza, and turn the enclave into the Riviera of the Middle East. The most inhumane and alarming part of the plan is forced expulsion of the inhabitants. In a press conference, Trump announced to clean the whole Gaza of Palestinian, but later, due to international condemnation, a White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt hailed Gaza's proposal as historic, outside of the box thinking, but she walked back Trump's earlier assertion that Gazans needed to be permanently resettled in neighboring countries, saying instead that they should be temporarily relocated for the rebuilding process.
The president has made it clear that they need to be temporarily relocated out of Gaza for the rebuilding of this effort. Again, it's a demolition site right now. It's not a livable place for any human being.
But Palestinians are well aware of the consequences of leaving their land, and once they leave their land temporarily or for a long time, they will never ever be able to return. As a result, they do not leave voluntarily. Instead, they remain steadfast, preparing to resist these illegal actions. A historical analysis of Gaza indicates that the Palestinian population is unlikely to leave voluntarily. However, the crucial question remains: what options are available to the United States to facilitate the relocation of Gaza's population? In a bid to find an answer, we present various scenarios and situations and analyze how Palestinian would respond to each one. To expel the population, the United States would require boots on the ground, a possibility that Donald Trump did not dismiss during his press conference. Such a scenario is highly unlikely because regional heavyweights, especially Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Turkey, which are also close allies of the United States, will never support such a unilateral action by outside power. Ignoring regional allies will severely damage United States interests in the Middle East as well as in the whole Muslim world. Now we will discuss a scenario where regional countries give up Palestinian cause either by U.S. pressure or other political reasons, creating favorable conditions for the U.S. to come in and get rid of Palestinian from the besieged enclave. Such an action would pit the U.S. in direct confrontation with Gaza-based resistance factions, thus jeopardizing the United States' interests in the Middle East. This unilateral action will inflame the whole Muslim world and will compromise the security of the United States citizens elsewhere in the world. So the U.S. will not opt for direct confrontation with Gaza-based resistance factions and try to negotiate terms favorable to them. The worst-case scenario is when the U.S. disregards all prior concerns and tries to take Gaza by force, aiming to expel all residents in line with Trump's plan. To achieve these goals, the U.S. needs to deploy thousands of service personnel, because in case of invasion the resistance factions along with the local population put off stiff resistance. While the U.S. military might ultimately overpower the resistance, victory would come at a devastating cost: thousands of civilian casualties and widespread destruction of infrastructure. Following its victory, the United States now faces the critical challenge of forced relocation of 2.3 million inhabitants. However, the most urgent and pressing question remains: where should the U.S. resettle millions of people, and is it possible to relocate 2.3 million people at once? Trump in his press conference said that refugees will be permanently settled in beautiful and more secure places outside Gaza, where they can live in peace. However, he didn't specifically name a place of resettlement, but in the past he expressed his desire to resettle Gaza inhabitants in Egyptian Sinai and Jordan. Will Jordan and Egypt expect further refugees? A big no. Jordan and Egypt already firmly rejected the U.S. proposal to take refugees. Some sources also claim that Israel, in coordination with the U.S. administration, wants to resettle Palestinians in as far as Indonesia, Brazil, and Iraq. But their plans didn't materialize without Palestinian consent, which till now resisted any such plan. Israel's desire to forcibly transfer Gaza's population never really disappeared. Gaza has been home to Palestinian refugees from across the country, holds profound political and symbolic importance within the broader Palestinian narrative. For Palestinians, their connection to the land is unwavering, rooted in history, identity, and resilience. Despite Israel's repeated attempts to depopulate Gaza, these efforts have proven futile, as the people's enduring attachment to their homeland has consistently prevailed. The failure of such measures underscores the strength of Gaza's population and their determination to remain on their land. In this part of the video, we will discuss the legal implications of this forcible transfer of masses in accordance with international law. Since the end of the Second World War in 1945, the use of force has been prohibited in international law. This is one of the foundations of international law since the creation of the United Nations. The U.S. could only take control of Gaza with the consent of the sovereign authority of the territory. Israel can't cede Gaza to the U.S. The International Court of Justice has ruled that Gaza is an occupied territory, and that this occupation is illegal under international law. So, for this to happen legally, Trump would require the consent of Palestine and the Palestinian people to take control of Gaza. One of the biggest obligations of an occupying power comes under Article 49 of the Geneva Conventions. This prohibits an occupying power from forcibly transferring or removing people from a territory. All other states also have an obligation not to assist an occupying power in violating international humanitarian law. So that means if the U.S. wanted to move the population of Gaza by force, Israel could not assist in this action. And likewise, the U.S. cannot assist Israel in violating the rules. Trump's proposed plan for Gaza, marked by forced expulsion and territorial takeover, raises serious humanitarian, geopolitical, and legal concerns. History has shown that Palestinians remain deeply attached to their land and will not leave voluntarily, making any attempt at displacement a direct violation of international law. The practical and ethical challenges of resettling 2.3 million people remain unresolved, with regional and global opposition further complicating the feasibility of such a move. Beyond its immediate consequences, this plan threatens to destabilize the Middle East, strain U.S. relations with its allies, and provoke widespread resistance. Moreover, under international law, the forced transfer of populations is prohibited, making such an action legally indefensible. In the end, the fate of Gaza is not merely a political or military issue but a question of fundamental human rights. The resilience of the Palestinian people and the legal constraints on forced displacement suggest that such a plan would not only fail but also deepen the crisis, further entrenching the conflict rather than resolving it.